That's it. Yeah, it's. You're saying that's pashut that you have to do it.
It's like
That's what people do.
No, people don't worship Elohim Acherim and are murderers, Ganovim. I mean, what?
Yeah, it makes you wonder, right? It makes you wonder what kind of everybody complains about our generation, right?
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, I hear that. I said in the mailbox. Anyways,
Which mailbox?
not that mailbox, parents. I knew you were going to say that. Not that mailbox.
That's the female box.
Very good.
That only males use, parents.
Yeah, that's funny. Yeah. If anybody doesn't know what he's talking about, then I'm sorry. That's cool. That's cool doing Ratzon Abayir. If I ever heard of doing a Ratzon Abayir, doing that stuff is definitely, the drop offs and the this. Fine. Okay, so we're on the second line down. Tzadiyah and Aleph. So we were discussing, the Gemara was discussing the sugya of a guy. Again, the basic case was, I guess we have to chazer to make sure we got it, is that a guy's wife went overseas and then she died. He heard that she died. So he went and married her sister. Then they find out that his wife was really alive. So now he was married to achos ishtay, which is assur as long as his wife is alive, right? So now what? So we said that he's allowed to stay married to his first wife, even though he was mezana. I guess you call it the mafrei. You call it as nus, even though he was mezana with his wife's sister. So, but it's not assur forever. That's not awesome. He can still stay married to his original wife, right? Fine. So the Gemara says when we know on the lo yasira, right? The second line down. How do we know that he doesn't become assur to his wife? Right? Meaning again, the lumdus behind it is you're not allowed to marry your wife. You're not allowed to marry your wife's sister. So if you did, then l'chari should become assur to marry your wife. Should become assur to your wife. Fine. So how do you know that you don't become assur? The Tanya Isa, it says in the passuk, right? V'shachab ish Isa, and a man sleeps with her. Isa shrivasa isarta, her shriva makes her assur. Vein shriva sacheres isarta, but there's no other sleeping that makes her. I'm sorry, acheres. Vein shrivas achos isarta, and the diak is that the sleeping of her sister doesn't make her assur. Right? Like again, what was the song you said about? It's a man's world.
Yeah.
Right. So meaning if she goes and she's mezana with anybody, she becomes assur to her husband. He goes and is mezana with her sister, and he could still stay married to her. I don't know if she's gonna want to, but that's what it is. Why now? But that's what the passuk is. That's the deal from Isa. Why sheyachol? Because if it wouldn't be for the passuk, I would say a kavachaymer to say that it's assur for him to stay married to his wife when he's mezana with her sister. Because why? Issur kal. Right? This is going to come up at the bottom of the daf exactly what issur kal is. But you have a kavachaymer. If you have something that's an issur kal, which the Gemara doesn't say exactly what that is. So, but that issur kal is nesa ha'isur. The one who makes her become assur he himself becomes assur, right? Which is basically Rashi says her Baal becomes assur because he's assuring her to others. Yeah, meaning the person who's mezana with the woman is making her assur, right? And he's also assur to be with her. Yeah, and the husband becomes assur to be with her. So if that's the case, so makam shabal issur chomer, if he's bala issur chomer, which is his wife's sister, then eino din shenesar issur, that the person who's doing this, which is the husband, he should for sure become assur. Right? Meaning, so why is it more chomer? Why is that so much more chomer being with a wife's sister? The reason is because being with a wife's sister is until death. The guy cannot be with his wife's sister. Right? Even if he divorces his wife, he cannot be with his wife's sister until she actually dies. So it's more chomer, meaning in a standard marriage, which we're going to say on Amud Beis. So yes, when the man gets married, the woman becomes assur to every man, but all you need to do is have a divorce, and then she becomes mutter to every man. Right? So it's not as chomer. Fine. So that's what the Gemara is saying. You would have thought this from a kavach. Comes along the passuk and tells you, no, the man does not become assur to his wife. So R Yehuda, Beis Hillel don't have a machlokes where somebody is with his mother-in-law, then that he becomes assur to his wife. So there's no machlokes Beis Hillel with that. What's the machlokes? If he has relations with his wife's sister, Shamai Shamai Taka says that it's passuk, which is not like our Gemara that we just said. And Beis Hillel says it's not passuk. That's the way Rabbi Yehuda says the machlokes in Beis Hillel. And Rabbi Yossi says the opposite. That's like our Gemara. Right? There's no machlokes that if he has relations with his wife's sister, that he doesn't become assur to his wife. What's the machlokes Beis Hillel? Where he's together with his mother-in-law. He passels his wife. And Beis Hillel says it's not passel. Now, the Rabbi Yossi says his reason. Why? Lefisha betchila, right? Hu mutter b'chol hanashim sheba'olam. Meaning betchila, before they get married, he can marry every woman in the world, right? Meaning as long as she's single. V'hi mutares b'chol hanashim sheba'olam. She's mutter to everybody in the world. Kitcha hu, let's say he's mekadesher. I'm sorry, kitcha. If he mekadesher, hu isra, v'hi asarta. He makes her assur, and he makes her assur to the whole world, and she makes him assur to all of her relatives. And the more issur she becomes more assur than what the issur that she provides to him. Meaning he gives her more issur than she gives him. Why? He makes her assur to marry any man in the world, which is the lashon of the kedushin, right? Not Asher Kedash, you did. That's bris. How's it go by? How's it go by chasana? It's one arayos. Right. So because he asser, that's what we say the bracha. We're assering her to the whole world, right? He can really, again, a man can marry as many wives as he wants. So she only makes him assur for her to her relatives, right? So basically, he is making her, he's causing many more chumras on her than she is on him. And then we're going to have a kavach. He makes her assur to all men in the world. And if a woman is a shoygig by mistake, she is mezana with somebody. She does not become nasr to the husband she's mutter to, right? If a woman b'shoygig ends up being mezana, or it's a einus, then she could stay married, even though she's more chomer. So she who only asers him on her relatives, so if he's b'shoygig with something that's also them, meaning his wife's sister, he should not become assur. So that is the kavach. That's what Rabbi Yossi is saying, that both Beis Shamai and Beis Hillel hold that they both agree that she does not become assur.
Can't you tie in on this kavach? Because he only had to be careful for 3 other ladies in the world, and he couldn't help Zechaim for 3 ladies. So give him a einish. She was also on 2 billion men. She was also on 2 billion men. He had 3 ladies he had to watch himself with.
and he couldn't control himself.
Yeah.
Plus, isn't the Beferish passuk talking about a wife and his mother? How does the Rav Yossi deal with that passuk? That talks about a wife and a mother. You can't sleep with a woman and her daughter, or a wife and her mother at the same time. That's the passuk.
Right. No, but that's how does he get out of that? So he's still assur. It's just not going to assur her. He's not denying that it's assur, right? He's just saying that to assur her from going back to him, it's not going to assur.
But I think he's saying it's more lenient with a mother-in-law than a sister-in-law. I mean, yeah. But he's more lenient
saying,
with the mother.
Well, it's a Machlokes. By the sister, it's by the wife's sister, it's not. Right? He's saying everybody agrees that they can stay married. By the mother, it's a Machlokes of Shamai Beis. Right?
Yeah, but
Well, what truth is, let's see the next few lines. He's going to say what the pshat is, right? I think based on what you're asking. If not, let me know. So anyway, so then the Gemara continues. So v'zeh din l'shoigig, right? So this din works for shoigig to explain why, if he by mistake is together with his wife's sister, then he can still stay with his wife. But l'meizid minayin, how do you know that if he's b'meizid, he goes and he's mezana with his sister-in-law, that he's still allowed to stay married? Tamaloymar oisa. That's what oisa tells you. Oisa shchivasay sarta ve'ain shchivasay achoisay sarta. Her, for if she's mezana, that makes her assur. If her sister is mezana, then that does not make her assur to her husband. Right? Fine. So Amar of Ami. So that's what he's saying. That's the way he learned to kabel chayim. Right? Amar of Ami, Amar Rish Lakish. My time of Rabbi Yehuda. Why does Rabbi Yehuda say? Right? Why does Rabbi Yehuda say that Abba Chamoisai does make his daughter puzzle? And this is gonna go according to Beis Shamai and Rabbi Yossi also. That's what Tosfos says. Meaning the Gemara is asking about Rabbi Yehuda. So then what about Beis Shamai according to Rabbi Yossi? But it's going to work the same way. Tifsiv pe'esh yisur hu asai ve'eshen. Right? We saw this passuk in the end of yesterday's out. It says that if he's going to be together with his mother-in-law, so he gets burned, and eshen is plural, and them. So does the whole house get sreifa because the mother-in-law and the son-in-law mezana? Right? And so it can't be. So so since it's not coming to tell you sreifa, because it can't be that the wife is becoming the wife can get sreifa. So it must be telling you that the wife is assur. So when it says eshen, it's telling you that the wife becomes assur if her husband is mezana with her mother. Right? Fine. So Amar Rav Yehuda, Amar Shmuel, Ein halacha Rav Yehuda, the halacha is not like Rav Yehuda. Meaning, and the halacha is like Rav Yossi, which is the way we pass it. Yeah. Yeah.
Is there a Kabbalah from Moshe Rabbeinu? How do we know which psukim we darshan and which we don't? And the passuk says they get burned, so they get burned. No, they get burned. What am I supposed to do? I mean, we say that Shane Vayin, it's if you don't chop off somebody's hand, you put him, you give him a kanas or whatever. But how do you know? How do you know it's not? If I ask you plain, if Nebuch Hashem Yirach, somebody had a Ben Sarah Moira, because the kid ate a whole brisket by himself and a loaf of pastrami and a bottle of scotch, you take out a 12-year-old boy and you kill him. That makes sense? So why doesn't this make sense?
You're right. These are drushes. This is the way we darshan it. Who gives them permission to darshan that way? I don't know.
So where do they decide to darshan that way?
I mean, here you don't really have a choice. Are you going to say eshen means that the poor wife, what did he do? His mother, her husband hit up on her mother, right? So why? She should have to get divorced. Now, why she doesn't want to get divorced, I have no idea, right? But I guess talking about a man's world, she doesn't have a choice. It's not ground to divorce either, right?
Okay. I had
that's the way you have.
I had a monster fight with Shmuel this morning about this. We had a.
Oh, yeah?
He called me. I called me back just before the year started. He left me a message. I should call him, but I didn't have time to call him now. Obviously.
I hear. All right. Okay. It's too bad the Olam on the Daf here doesn't get to experience a good fight between Shmuel Grossman and Rabban Horowitz. Between them two, that's a good fight. Pay-per-view. Okay, maybe you should record it or something. Anyways. So Rabbi Yehuda Shmuel says Allah is not like Rabbi Yehuda. Now this is for you. You're gonna this next Gemara, it threw me for a loop. And then of course this is Yavamas, parrots, listen to this. Ahu David issur b'chamse. So it was a guy who did an issur with his mother-in-law. Like you said with the Musar, we're not doing so bad in our door. Yeah, assur Rav Yehuda Nagde. Rav Yehuda came and gave him makos. So he said to him, and Rav Yehuda said to him, Ilav da Amar Shmuel, Ein Halacha ki Rabbi Yehuda. The halacha is not like Rabbi Yehuda. Asrisa Allah issur da'alam. I would have made you assur that you can't even go back to your wife, right? Because I would have said you went with your mother-in-law, that passels you up from your wife. But Rabbi Yehuda said that the halacha is not like that, and we hold that everybody holds, although the Yehuda is like Beis Hillel, that you're allowed to stay with your wife. Now I'm looking at him saying Rabbi Yehuda did the Maisa, and he's saying we don't paskin like Rabbi Yehuda. I'm trying to rack my brain. Of course, one is Reb Yehuda and one is Rebbe Yehuda. No Gross alumnus till I figured this out. But I'm saying, like, I'm trying to think. He's not paskening like himself. Then I chap. One is Rebbe Yehuda. But of course, in Yevamos, it has to be that the Maisa happens. And he says we don't pasken like Rebbe Yehuda. That's just par for the course, right? But anyways, okay, fine. So we said in the Kal V'Chaimer that there was an issur kal. If by an issur kal, the guy could stay married. So by issur chomer, for sure he could stay married. So my issur kal, what is the issur kal? The issur kal is somebody who remarried his wife when she got married to somebody else. Meaning, Ruvain, let's go with the Ruvain and the Leah, whatever. Ruvain married Rachel, right? We don't have to go with that. Whatever. Ruvain got married. He divorced his wife. He's only allowed to remarry his wife as long as she didn't marry somebody else. Once she marries somebody else, he can no longer marry her. But if he does marry her, now she becomes assur to her second husband, right? It's a dominoes, right? The first husband, number one, Ruvain marries Rachel. He divorces Rachel. Now Rachel's not allowed to marry Ruvain if she got married to Shimon. But she got married to Shimon, so now she's not allowed to marry Ruvain. But she went back and she married Ruvain. Okay, so now she made herself assur to Shimon, right? Because that's machzor grushasai on him. So in that case, so what's the Kal V'Chaimer? Yeah, go ahead.
It's just it happens to be what you'll tell me it's kind of Matan Torah. That's what you have to. That Yocheved, after Amram divorced her, she married somebody, and she gave Eldad and Medad were half brothers to Aaron and Moshe. There's a medrash.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So you say the Pasha Torah said it's kind of Matan Torah, but there's a medrash that says that they were half brothers to Moshe.
Taka? Yeah. Okay, it's interesting, but okay. So what's the Kal V'Chaimer though? So again, we're saying Machzor B'Shasei is Kal. Also, there's no Machzor B'Shasei is not Misor Chorus, right? It's a love. Anyway, so Ba'al Hai, if the second husband has relations with her, Asra Alei, the high, she becomes assur to her first husband, right? Meaning once she sleeps with somebody else, she becomes assur to the first husband. If the other one, means the first husband goes back to her, asra le the high, then she becomes assur to the second husband. Right? So who's the one that causes the issur? You see that the one that causes the issur is assur, right? The second husband or the second man she's with causes the first one to become assur, right? So then same thing by wife's sister. the one who causes the issur to happen, will himself become assur. So therefore, that's what you would think. And then the passuk says, I saw, and tells you not like that. So that's what we're saying. So Gemara says, we're going to ask on that, but who says Machzor B'Shasei is so mako? If he remarries his wife, once she got married to somebody else, she came nitma haguf, because her guf became tameh, meaning because she was actually mezana, right? The issura biroiv, and she becomes assur to most people, right? Because she's not allowed to. Once she's married, she's not allowed to marry anybody else. The issur is oilam, and the issur is forever, right? Which, and meaning those are three things that you have. Again, nitma haguf, right? Haguf becomes tameh, right? I mean, I don't. It's meaning right. I mean, yeah. It's you have to keep track of all the different marriages here, right? And by Machzor B'Shasei, she, the woman that's becoming assur and is making somebody else assur, is doing the issur, right? When a husband goes and marries a wife's sister, what did the wife do wrong? Right? Again, we're just trying to keep the wife in her marriage. That we just got to not keep lose sight of that, of what's going on here. A husband goes and misbehaves with his wife's sister, right? Fine. So what did the wife do wrong that she has to get out of the marriage, right? So she didn't do anything wrong. By Machzor B'Shasei, the lady did something wrong, right? So that's why you would think that she should be assur. But why should the wife who didn't do anything wrong? And that's one difference. And issur is b'roiv, right? Meaning, roiv men in the world will make her assur.
What did she do wrong by Machzor B'Shasei? What did she do wrong?
What? She went back to her first husband. Her first marriage, she didn't do anything wrong. When she went back to her first husband, now she assured herself onto the second husband. She keeps bouncing
she's
back
the one
and forth.
She's the one that got remarried, not he got remarried.
Gee, he could get remarried from today till tomorrow. That doesn't make a difference.
No,
Okay.
When she gets married.
When she remarried her first husband after she married the second husband, that's
okay.
Right.
So he did an issur also. The first husband did an issur also.
Correct. Yeah, he's no tzaddik. We know that in all these cases the man is not the tzaddik. That we've established. He just doesn't get punished for whatever reason, right? But for all the reasons. But anyway, so that's another reason. And the third one is the surah Israel, and she's assur forever, right? Meaning the husband goes and marries the wife's sister. That's not really an Israel. Once his wife dies, he could go back to this lady, right? It's not an Israel. By divorce, once she marries somebody else, she becomes an Israel to the original husband. So anyway, so therefore you can't compare the two. So that can't be the issur kal. Yivama must be talking about a yivama, right? So now what's yivama to who? Yivama laman. So what are we going to who? Who is this yivama? If he's talking about that it's a yivama to somebody else, meaning not her brothers-in-law, and it's going like Rav Hamnuna, somebody who's waiting for yibam, and she's mezana assur liyavma. She is assur to her yavam from then on, because we look at it as if she's married already, even though she's not actually married. We look at the zika as if she's married. So when she goes and she's mezana, it's a problem. Mal yivama, she came nitma aguf, like we said, the woman did something wrong. The issur b'roiv, and she's also assur to most men. So therefore, you can't compare the two cases. So it can't be talking about a yivama to other men that are not her brothers-in-law. Must be talking about a yivama to her brothers, which what happened? One guy did mimer. Well, we haven't had mimer in a while. A good old mimer is back. Mimer means that he said that he is going to be marrying her. Once he says it, then he has dibs on her. Nobody else is supposed to touch her. Asra Allah dahai. She goes and she becomes, once he says mimer, she becomes asra on the other brothers, right? And then comes the other brother and is mizana with her, assur ladahai. Then that becomes assur onto the first brother who did maimer, right? So then the Gemara asks, so my area shabala sheni afilu abad nami maimer. Why do you have to say that he was boil her? Even if he just did maimer to her, that's going to be a problem. So the Gemara says, no, that's not a kasha. We're going with Gamliel who says there's no such thing as maimer acha maimer. So therefore, the only way to make it that this lady is going to become assur is if she actually was mizana with another brother, not the brother that she did maimer to. So the Gemara says, Ela afilu nasan laget, afilu chalatzla, right? But even if then the case could apply, even if he gives her a get, and even if he does halitza, right? So she's still going to be still assur to the first brother, right? So then so we're saying that can't be the case. So Rav Yochanan, we're talking about a sotah. Now again, a sotah gets a little dicey here. A sotah is one who were chayshid, she was mizan. The husband is chayshid. He wasn't actually mizan, right? That's going to come up in the next case. He was chayshid her that she was mizan. So therefore, he's not allowed to be with her until they go up to Yerushalayim to the Beis Hamikdash and drink the drink. He's not allowed to be with her. So we're talking about a sotah, right? And so the Gemara says sotah laman. Who was she being mizana with? That we're talking about here. If you say she's mizana to the baal, that can't baal. So then when the baal is boil her, assur the boil, then that makes the boil assur to her forever. Right? Because meaning, let's say she was mizana. So if the baal is together with her, then the boil becomes an automatic assur. So the ma'ir yabala. So why do you have to even say bala? Even if he gives his wife a get, even if he says, I'm not going to make my wife drink the drink, right? Meaning she only drinks the drink, man that the husband wants her to. If the husband divorces her, she doesn't drink the drink, but she's never allowed to be together with the guy who they were chayshid she was together with, right? So why do you have to go? Why does it have to talk about a case of actual znus? It could be a case of another case, yeah.
So let's say the case is she knows. Yeah, let's say she knows she's gonna explode after she drinks it. Why don't you just get divorced before?
I'm not sure. I don't. You're muted, about.
Because he initiates the divorce, she can't initiate the divorce.
She wants to get a get. I think
She can't. No. You see, that does no. She can't ask for a get. She cannot ask for a get, but she could be maida though. No, if she could be maida.
I was about to say, if she's maida, she was mizana, then what?
You need some.
I don't know. Would they have to get divorced?
if she knows she's up to something, why wouldn't she just be maida before? It's either that or she dies.
You're right. She's gonna die, but there's ways. I don't know. I don't remember offhand now why it is that she would do it, but there's ways that she could be saved somehow. Unless she wants to get out of the guy that was mizana, because he also dies, right? Yeah, but I don't remember. But it's a good question. It's a good question. But okay, but as the show we get the sotah, that's an action-packed sotah right there. Fine. So now, okay. So either way, so we're saying that it can't be talking about a regular sotah. So it must be a sotah lebayil. I mean, it is a regular sotah, but it must be talking about the sotah to the bayil, right? Which means she's becoming assur. Good Shabbos. So she becomes assur to the bayil, right? So we're going to say that kal v'chomer. So hi issur kalu, that's an issur kal, issur chomer hu, right? That's an issur chomer. Tahainu eishes ish, that's eishes ish, right? How are you going to call eishes ish issur kal? On Talmud Beis now. Ella Amar Rava. So Rava says eishes ish. It doesn't mean sotah. It means actual eishes ish. Now, why is that called a kal? So Rashi says it's more kal than a wife's sister, right? Because an Ashes Ish, meaning it doesn't mean Ashes Ish where she's Mizana. I mean, well, eventually it could be Mizana, but Ashes Ish is not as chomer as a wife's sister, because an Ashes Ish, the second that she gets divorced, right, then she becomes mutter the whole world. So then that works, right? But a wife's sister is also forever, right? So v'chein ki yosser Rabban Amar Rabbi Yochanan Ashes Ish. It's someone Ashes Ish. Issur kal. Why is she called an issur kal? Shein issur kal yama, because the one that asks her doesn't ask her all the days, because she could get divorced and then she becomes mutter to anybody. Tani nami hachi Abachanan Amar B'Shem Rebbe Lazar Ashes Ish. It's Tomer Ashes Ish, and now the Gemara repeats the kal v'chomer. Uma b'bakam habal issur kal. In a place that somebody is born in issur kal, sheina issur kal yama, with a person making her assur, meaning the husband is assuring her on the whole world, but it's not forever because they can get divorced. She becomes mutter. So nesara issur, so the issur himself does become assur if she's mizana, right? Again, he's making her assur to the entire world, right? If she's mizana, he's going to become assur to her. So about issur chomer, somebody who's born issur chomer, which is a wife's sister, shah issur is called yamav, that the assur does make her assur kol yamav, meaning even if he gets divorced, he's still assur to his wife's sister. Ain't no dinshin assur, and it shouldn't be a kavachayma that if the wife's sister is mizana, that the wife should become assur. That's what you would think. Tamaloymar Isa. The passuk says Isa shchivasa isarta. Only her sleeping with somebody makes her also to a husband. But the shchiva of her sister does not make her also. Right? Fine. So then we had the last line in the Mishnah says that Rabbi Yossi said that anybody
that sounds very similar to the chalal kal v'chomer. I think it's a makos. Ma machal ein machal bal chalal.
Right? Yeah. That's very good, Taka. It's similar. It is similar, right? That the guy himself, right? That's what we're looking at. That's how we're trying to analyze this. Is the guy himself is not going to necessarily, meaning without the passuk, we would have made him us. Correct. So then the last line in the Mishnah says that Rabbi Yossi says anybody who makes any, which is sort of like the taina that the guys are saying on the shir. What the guys are saying is that how can this guy who's going to potentially make somebody else assur not become assur himself? Why is that fair? Right? So Rabbi Yossi says this thing. He says, if you make somebody else assur, then you're also going to become assur. And if you make somebody else mutter, then you're going to be mutter. That's what Rabbi Yossi says. So what exactly is that talking about? So we have to see that it's talking about an additional case. Maiko Amar Rabbi Yossi. What is Rabbi Yossi saying? If you're going to say that when the Tanakama says in this case, right, the azal ishtoi, meaning an additional thing happens here. Again, the original case is the guy gets married, his wife goes overseas, he's told his wife dies, he marries his wife's sister, right? But there's a new wrinkle in this case. Azal ishtoi v'gisoi, his wife and his brother-in-law go to Medina Hayam. I don't think it means that they went together. I hope not. But you know what? With these Gemaras, maybe yeah. Right? But again, his wife and his wife's sister's husband go overseas. So until now, we were saying that the wife's sister was single. Now we're saying that the wife's sister is married. And she went overseas, and so did his wife went overseas, and his wife's sister's husband went overseas. We got to hurry up. The Medina Hayam, who went overseas, Ashes Gisoi Asira. And obviously what happened is that they found out that both of them died. So he went and married his wife's sister. So now what happened is that she's an Ashes Ish on her end. And for him, he married his wife's sister. And then he found that the whole thing was the issur. So Ashes Gisoi Asira, the wife of his brother-in-law, is also to go back to her brother-in-law. Like we said, a woman who's an Ashes Ish is a problem. The Ishka Sharia, but he is allowed to marry his wife. That's what the Tanakama said. The same way his wife is mutter, so the wife of his brother-in-law, meaning his wife's sister, should be able to go back to her husband. So the Gemara says, If you're saying that the phrase is whoever doesn't say something's passel on acherim is not passel for himself, it should say anybody who doesn't passel from himself should not passel others. Right? Meaning it's saying it a little backwards. So that can't be the case. So what we're going to have to say is that just like the wife of his brother-in-law is assur, so then he's also becomes assur, meaning he's mezana with his brother-in-law's wife. She becomes assur, but he could stay married to his wife. Right? Why is that fair? So that's what the Gemara says. Hatina kosher paisel. That fits in anybody who makes somebody else puzzle himself becomes puzzle. Somebody who doesn't make somebody puzzle, what is it going to have to do? So now we're going to have two terutzim. It's going on the resha, meaning the original case of this peril. Talking about where the woman whose husband went overseas and he died and she got remarried and he found out that he was alive, right? So Amar of Ami Aresha Nisas al pi Bezdin. If she got married from Bezdin, meaning it was only Eid Echad, so Teitze, she has to get divorced, but she's parted from carbon because Bezdin did it to her. Al pi Eidim, but if it's do Eidim, Teitze v'chayavis b'carbon, that she goes out, but she's chayav carbon. Why? Yafa koichish of Bezdin shepturim in a carbon, like we said before. The Bezdin has a good koyach that it can make a potter from carbon. The Tanakama says, "Loishna pi edim the eishes gisay sharia." We don't care whether she became assur from edim, which we said the woman can stay in the marriage. That's the right. The wife of his brother-in-law. Gisay means brother-in-law. The loishna pi bezdin the eishes gisay asira, and if it's done al pi bezdin, where we said that the wife is assur, that meaning they don't differentiate. If it's al pi bezdin where she becomes assur, so then he's gonna become assur too, right? Al pi edim, but if it's with edim, he's not gonna make anybody puzzle because she's gonna be able to stay married to her husband because it was done with edim. So he's not gonna become puzzle either. That's where Rabbi Yossi said it. So basically, the way Rav Ami is saying is that the Machlokes is in the first Mishnah, and that's what Rav Yossi's statement was saying, even though it comes 3 Mishnahs later or 2 Mishnahs later. Rav Yitzchak Nachman, no, there's no loyal say it's going on this case of the wife and the brother-in-law going overseas, right? One is talking about where they went engaged, and one is talking about where his wife went married. We're going to differentiate between engaged and married. Why? It doesn't make a difference if it's his wife and his brother-in-law or her brother-in-law, and no difference if it's engaged, not married. The wife of his brother-in-law is going to be assur, and his wife is going to be mutter. That's a Tanakama. Same shita, right? She gets shafted, he's fine. If it's his wife and a brother-in-law, remember to know have a labor nesuin. What you're not going to say, like we said in yesterday's daf, nobody's making tnayim in nesuin for nesuin, because that means if she doesn't keep the deal, then the marriage gets absolved. But then every ma'isa that they had was nus. So nobody's going to speak. Nobody's going to be chayshid that the original marriage was absolved. If he's not going to become puzzle he's not going to puzzle others, so he himself is not going to become puzzle. But if it happened with his arusa when she was engaged and his brother, the equal member to not have a production, people are going to say that it was a tonight, and the first marriage wasn't a marriage, right? And the second marriage is kosher, and therefore he's going to make others puzzle. So then he himself should become assur too. Fine. So that's the way he's saying that it goes on this case, and the difference is between whether they were engaged or they were married. Fine. So we got to hurry up and finish here. Fine. So Maskul Rabbi Yosef, he's saying Allah is like Rabbi Yosef. Maskul Rabbi Yosef, did Shmuel really say Allah is like Rabbi Yosef? Yivama Rabba, he keishes ish. Yivama is like an ishes ish, right? Meaning, if Yivama, if somebody's mazana with her, and then he's let's see. You know what the Gemara is going to explain. Shmuel Amar Eina Keshes Ish. Amar Yehuda Kagain Shekidish Echav Esisha. One of them got engaged to the yivama. And he traveled overseas. And he heard that the brother died. And he got up and he married the wife. The Rav Amar he Ish. He holds he's like an Ish. Yavam, and she's assur. She's like an Ish, and she's assur to the yavam, even though they're only engaged. Shmuel Amar Eina Ish. She is not like an Ish because it's only yivama. And she can go back to her first husband because even though she made a mistake. So you see clearly. So what do you see from this? That that how can you say that Rabbi Yossi holds like Shmuel? I'm sorry. How can you say that Rabbi Yehuda says that Shmuel goes like Rabbi Yossi if clearly he's saying that that it's the problem? So Amalei Abaye, so Abaye says, and how do you know that Shmuel said Rabbi Yitzchak Nafla Kamar? It's going on the case of Rabbi Yitzchak Nafla, which is differentiating between engaged and marriage. Dilma the Rav Ami Kamar. Maybe it's going on Rav Ami. It's going on the original case. And even if you say that it's going on Rabbi Yitzchak Nafla, my da puzzle. Who says it's going on him making her puzzle on Tamid Aleph now? I guess let's just go to the Mishnah. But Dilma, I ain't a puzzle. Maybe he's going on where it's going on the part where he did not make anybody puzzle. Right? So therefore it's not a spirit to Shmuel. Inami, Mimai, the issur Rav Huna, who says that Rav Huna's interpretation of that Machlokes is correct. Dilma, less of the Rav Huna Klau. Maybe he doesn't know the Rav Huna at all. Look at the Rav Hamnuna, Ubid the Rav Hamnuna Kamefugay. And the Machlokes Rav Hamnuna, Damar Rav Hamnuna, Shemeres Yavam Shezinsa, a Shemeres Yavam that's Mazana, Asura no yivama, it's also to the yivama. The Rav Amar, Harehi Keishes Ish, because Rav says she's like an Ashes Ish. Umifsalab is nus, and she becomes passuk, which is nus. Shmuel Amar Eina Keishes Ish. She's not an Ashes Ish, but like Mifsalab is nus, and she does not become a passuk with nus or a fourth teretz. Binami. The Kedushin types in Biyamava Kamiflagi. Whether Kedushin really works by Yivama. The Rav Amar Arayos Keishes Ish. Rav says Harehi Keishes Ish. She's like a regular Ashes Ish. For like talks about Kedushin. Kedushin does not work because she already had engagement from one of the brothers, so it doesn't work. Shmuel Amar Eina Keishes Ish. She's not like an Ashes Ish. But talks about Kedushin, and Kedushin does work. Right? So then the Gemara says Va'afligu b'chadazim. We already had that Machlokes. Right, so no, like we said this teretz once before. It's the Gemara is learning it out one from the other, right? So it's not Shmuel didn't say it again, right? It's just saying it in a different way. Anyways, we're losing everybody, so I guess we'll stop here. It's a little quick. It's a hard Gemara. It's a good Friday afternoon.
Okay, it's Yevamos.
This one's hard as opposed to the other one you're saying.
What?
This one's hard as opposed to
the other 75 blot were easy.
The other ones were easy.
No, sometimes, some blot I try and get epis something out of, like epis, something that I can grab onto. These last couple of blot.
Well, I don't understand how they gave Malchus if the guy slept with his mother-in-law.
Whatever.
At least between
nice. You're hanging in there.
Yeah, it's just a matter of time. Yeah, it's almost
Rami,
done.
it's 90 something days of Rami.
Tell me about it. I'm surprised myself, to be honest. Baruch Hashem, a good Magid Shir and a good Chashav Eilam. Can't complain.
Shabbat shalom, everybody.
Shabbos.
Sag gesund.
Shabbos.